You have to get to a different level with people than being their manager. And what I say is you have to get involved with people. What makes them tick? And you have to ask them the questions.
This is the vinJones Podcast, Secrets of the Engaged Employee, with Kevin Jones of vinJones.com.
All right, welcome. Today we have Tony Peleska, who is the CIO for the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. He's also vice chairman and chair-elect for the board of directors at AIM International, which is Association for Information and Image Management. And that's where Tony and I met. We met at one of the conferences. What was that? End of 2014? December?
End of 2014, December.
Yeah, very good. How long have you been with AIM overall?
With AIM, I started at the start of 2012. So January 2012, I started on the board.
Okay.
So, just a while now. So 2015, my third year, which is exciting. And it's exciting to take the next step as the chair-elect and chair next year. So it'll be fun. Great organization, doing great things. They bringing people like you together to meet people like me to have these kind of conversations. So. Yes.
When at the conference where we met, it was what did we have? 50 people there or so. It was kind of smaller, but it was really good. The conversation was just incredible, hitting a lot of good points that we all deal with all the time, and having just fabulous conversations around it. I loved it.
I totally agree. I think we were talking about every aspect of not just technology. It's about how we work.
Yes.
And the important things that drive people so that you can accomplish something both personally and professionally. And I think that's what's important. So. Right.
Good. Well, tell everyone, if you would, just a little bit about yourself, your background and what you're doing.
Sure. So I'm currently the CIO at Minnesota Housing Finance. I've been here doing this around 9 years now, so I've been doing this for a while here. Before I was here, I was a consultant running an advisory consulting practice for a local consulting firm. There we would go into organizations and kind of really find out what some of the issues were and why they wanted to transform or transition or change, and help them become change agents and try to help them implement some of their futuristic thoughts and processes that they are all trying to gather collectively. So we're kind of the initiation and engagement folks that help them gather their ideas and move to the future. I did that here at this organization, and I came back a variety of different times to help them with different parts of their business, and they asked me to come back and be their CIO, and I definitely took them up on that. And as you'll find out through our questions, I'm not the traditional CIO that most organizations have.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I was impressed with when we met. And that first night, as we were talking over dinner, most CIOs and technology departments overall focus on the technology, which of course you should. But you brought in a human element that I have seen few CIOs or just any IT managers overall even have, and you brought that human element in, and I was really impressed with it. You've thought a lot about it and act on it as well. So that's really why I wanted to have this conversation with you, so others can learn from you as well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, now, so one of the questions I'd love to ask is, what is your why? What gets you going every day? Why are you doing what you're doing in the field you're doing it?
So when I wake up in the morning, I think the thing is, for me personally, I mean, I'm the CIO for Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. Another aspect of my job is I'm associated with my local government as an elected official running government. So I want to make a difference. I think that's what drives me more when I get up in the morning, knowing that I'm helping people find homes. I think that is what resonates for me first and foremost. And then that makes a difference. If I could see myself in that every day, that's what drives me more than anything else. So that's my big why. So I have to have a mission I'm associated with. That's super important to me because if you don't have that, there might be that element missing. And for me, it's important.
Right. So you have to have that. And I would assume that you believe that everyone should have that. What, tell me within your work, there are a lot of people who don't have that. In fact, I would say most. I mean, if we look at the numbers, about 70% of the people are not engaged in their work. And so they don't probably most likely understand their why, and they just have a job. So what role as an IT, as a CIO, do you play in helping people find their why?
So I think it's really important that you get down to that personal aspect of what drives each individual. And a big part of what you and I talked about when we met is that you really have to make sure that they're associated with something, whatever that is, and you have that conversation with them as a manager and as a development. I'm not trying to develop an IT department. I'm trying to develop leaders. I'm trying to develop people who are driving towards something that's more than that matches kind of what their skill sets are and where their vision is for themselves. I think that's really important. And if there's a disconnect, you got to address it right away around why they're doing the things they do. And a big part of that is trying to make sure that the mission and vision and values of our organization are expressed in everything that we do. So we speak to those all the time. And if you're not with an organization that does that, I think that's one of the things that organizations as a whole have to be able to express appropriately, and then have people engaged in building those mission, vision, and values together. It can't be a couple people in a room building this stuff and saying, this is what we're going to do. It has to be a collective part of the process so people can see themselves in it. And that's something that was really important that we brought into our organization. That is something that I thought was really important for me and for our group to participate in.
So these mission values, etc., were they built by everyone, or how did you build those so that everyone bought off on them? Because I could see where, for example, they may want some influence in that because the way one person wants to go or their why isn't the same as someone else's, and try how to collectively pull everyone together. So how did you kind of do that with your team?
So we built on what we had, and when I say that is that we had sessions, multiple sessions, strategy management sessions, where we had people go in and we talked about in small table groups what our mission is, what our vision is, and what our values are. And each group could talk about why, and they had little sticker notes to go say what's really important. So it was a collaborative exercise where we went in and we talked about, these are the themes, this is what people said. And we made sure we captured all the information, and we circulated that information with everybody. And the things that rose to the top are the things that became our mission, our vision, our values. So it was a completely collaborative exercise. Now, that didn't mean that everybody got their core component there, but they were heard, and they know that. And I think that's another big aspect of this. Knowing that you might not get what you want, but knowing that you were heard and somebody listened is a big aspect of getting engagement. And so I think, we probably weren't perfect, but I'll tell you what, we do an engagement survey every year, and we're at the high 60s or high 70 with when we do an export of a highly engaged workforce. And that's huge to have almost a high 60s, high 70% collective overall.
No kidding.
It's really nice. So.
Wow. Now you talked a bit about being heard, and I completely agree with you. If employees are not heard, it's so easy to kind of slide under the radar and just, if they're not being heard, then you have no idea what they're doing almost, and they can do pretty much what they want for whatever reason. And I've seen that happen over and over and over in different companies. So how do you make sure that they're heard? How are your employees heard by you and even each other?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we put in place so that we created. I'm going to use a couple of terms here that a lot of people use, and I think they're they're old school terms is what I'm going to say. People talk about alignment a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think alignment is a terrible term. And why I think that is because that means two people are doing two different things and they have to get along with each other.
Gotcha.
We use the word convergence. And if you converge, that means you bring things together and everybody's chomping at the same hole, maybe doing different aspects of it. So what we did is we implemented the IT Business Partner Program, and I talked to you a little bit about that. We wanted to collectively ideate with people. So it was that we have somebody there. So if there's an idea that's being generated within the business, instead of them totally baking the idea and then sending it over to IT, we're part of the process for when the ideation happens, so that we're part of it, and together the idea comes to a governing committee that comes together so that everybody's working together to a common good, telling the story together to tell why it's a good strategic investment. And we have a good vetting process that is not, I guess, rigored in high level importance. It's rigored in, are we doing the right thing, making the right investments as an organization? And not saying that person speaks the loudest so he gets it all the time, or they make more money all the time so they get whatever they want. It's, are we making a strategic investment on the greater whole? And we have the decision makers who don't have a vested interest, so like the CFO, the CEO, and myself, who have to be part of everything, being the decision makers in where things go. And it's a wonderful process because then everyone's part of something collectively, and they're bringing it together, and they're being heard, and there's not somebody in one division saying my thing's more important. It gets put on a spectrum, measured in all things, and it becomes an investment, not a cost.
Wow, very good. Yeah, I've seen so many organizations do focus on the important thing and not on the right thing. And I thought that was really interesting how you delineated between importance versus the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't think that it seems intuitive, and I think as human beings, we want to focus on the right thing, but those important things get in the way, and those important things really are different for every organization, or every person as to what they deem as important. So how do you focus more on the right things to do and then I don't want to say silence, but I'm going to use that word anyway, silence everyone's importances that they bring to the table and kind of level those out?
Well, they come to the table, but they're not voting members, and we publicize and we circulate all decisions that are made. Okay. And why. So as the important things come up, we put a value to their importance, but we actually, when you measure these things on the right thing to do, we're able to tell that story and publicize it, and we try to make sure that story and how it's being told isn't being told by just the decision makers. Gotcha. It's being told by the people who are part of it, and the people who didn't get their we think this is more important. We want to make sure we're all saying the same thing and having the same language and hearing the same story. And how many times do you go into something and say, well, they didn't like it, so we didn't do that, or we didn't do that. And that's not the story. The story is, that is very important to us. We're going to try to get to that in 6 months, and we made this decision, and this is why. And we're really, really, deliberate in our decisions. We're very much into a plain language approach to how we talk about it. And we want it to be from everybody, not from the decision makers, because they're the ones who participate in all of it. And that's where you gain the most agreement. And I'll be, we're not perfect. Sure. And I'll tell you what, doing this the way we're doing it, the engagement survey would say that, we're doing better than we ever have in the past. Sure, you ruffle feathers every now and then, but those people also, on the flip side, do get more value on the backside when they do see that their thing is in the queue and it's going to happen next. So you can tell a futuristic story the more you have people converge and work together.
You've said story a number of times, And again, that's another thing that I don't hear very often in really overall management, let alone IT, is trying to build this story, and not just the story from the top down, but the story overall.
Right.
And with the employees involved in that. Usually it's a message. Here's the message. We're going to get it out to you. That's what it is. There's no back and forth at all. And there isn't a story. And I really think that when organizations focus on the story itself, because there is a story behind it. It's not just this is what we're doing. It's why we're doing it. And it makes sense in this context and it makes sense to do this instead of this other thing because everyone just gets that and understands that. And I can completely see how there's so much more engagement in your organization just because of that one little piece itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love the story. So the employees get to be a part of that whole process and create the story. How do you tell that story? Because typical is PowerPoint. Here's a PowerPoint. That's our story. What other methods do you use to get that story out?
Well, we create a variety. There's a variety of different ways that we tell that story, depending on what level we're talking. Some things are smaller based projects where a PowerPoint that talks about it is a very relevant way of doing it.
Right.
Other stories are really themes that are brought out in a variety of different ways. And what I say that is, so you have a PowerPoint, and then you have a party, or you have a kickoff, you have a theme, you have a principles discussion, you have you have all of these things that bring everyone together. It's we have different variety ways of bringing people together. If it's something larger, and like I say, I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story. We're putting in a whole new platform around information management. It's our data strategy. And what we wanted to do is tell a story external to us to make sure that we kind of wanted to see, how the buy-in with the people who are evangelists in our divisions would resonate so that they could use that story. And we told the story about, what I brought up was, hey, a while ago when I wanted to do my online banking, this is what I could do. And over time, I was able to do more. I was able to get an online account and it linked my private banking account to my checking account. And then I could get access into my investment account. And, over time, all of these things built and it told a full story. And it resonated to people because it's what they lived. And that's a story that more people were able to use as evangelists within their divisions. Then as we took that story, we built some principles around it. And we circulated those principles and told story around each principle of how we were going to tackle this.
Great.
And then it became a PowerPoint.
Sure.
And now it's a vision. Now it's one of our vision principles, our values that we have. And you never know where that's going to go, but that's how it's kind of evolved over time.
That's great.
And it was very, very grassroots. I hope that made sense there, but
yeah.
So a variety of different ways, and it has to work for people.
That's good. I had a phrase just pop up into my mind as you were talking about that. It was kind of the difference between doing to the employees and doing with the employees.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. All right. So what is one secret that you may have? Because there are a lot of managers out there that are struggling with their employee engagement, with their employees being really into their work. Is there maybe a secret you have, something that they could tweak or that you've seen others do that maybe they should stop doing?
Well, I think that I don't know if I'd say stop doing it, but I think that you have to get to a different level with people than being their manager. And what I say is you have to get involved with people. What makes them tick? And you have to ask them the questions. I mean, the one thing that I do that just a little trick that I think builds trust is I ask people in the morning how they're doing, and I go around and make sure, I say hello to everybody, and I ask them at the end of the day, hey, did you have a great day? How is it going? I'll see you tomorrow. Just having that engagement is huge. And then finding things out about people and being able to talk back about that with them, it means you're connecting with them at a personal level. And I think that's so important, because if they come into a job and they just have somebody driving every day to get something done, there is no connection there to anything more than that. And we need more than that to do these jobs. And I think that's key.
Very good. Absolutely. I'm with you on that. Love it. All right. Few quick questions here. What is one technology that you love that you think more people should be using overall?
Oh boy, I would say it's business intelligence solutions. I think that data tells stories, and it can make things resonate that haven't been there. It can answer questions if you do it well, if you do it right, and you have a team who can really help you do that. I think it's that one missing link that we are now transitioning to, and I'm not going to call it big data, because I don't think that's what it is. I think it's analytics, and it can really help you decide where your focus is, and when you're having these conversations of everything we talked about, some foundational facts to go on to help tell your story even better.
Good. I love how you delineated there between big data and analytics. That's good, because so much of the buzzword right now is big data,
big
right?
Data.
But that only goes so far.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. What's one book or website or one resource overall that you think more teams should read, or managers should read, or really maybe just employees overall?
Oh boy. I'm going to, it's called the IT Business Partnership from Joe Topinka.
Okay.
Mostly because I was part of the creation of that book, but a lot of the ideas that I'm talking about are in there right now. And I think it's really important that if you're in the IT world, it really hits home on a lot of the things that we deal with day in and day, create an environment that I'm speaking about today with you, and changing that aspect, because in IT, a lot of people have traditionally felt like order takers.
Sure. Yep.
And I think what we've become is a trusted partner. And it's how do you get there?
Perfect.
And I think that's important.
Yes. Very good. All right. Another question. The aha moment for you. What is one aha moment you have had, and this could be professionally or personally, that has really changed your outlook on work or life?
I've had many, from having kids.
Right. They'll kind of force them on you.
But I think on the business side, it was the aha moment that when I had originally taken this job to transition to become a person who puts strategy in place for places and then leave,
Sure.
and not really know what happens on top of that in a senior leadership role, to be then part of that senior leadership and to realize the importance of having a voice and being at the table, and how it shouldn't just be 5 or 6 people. You have to have a variety of different voices that are different, because differences make you better, and to really be open to listening. And a big learning experience is that I think this organization had transitioned from people who would have people at the table, but there wouldn't be a lot of listening, to bringing people to the table and listening a lot. I tend to try not to talk a lot and listen.
Very good.
And then follow them. And I think that's my biggest aha moment in coming here and over my first couple of years of being here.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So to wrap this up then, I like to have everyone on this podcast be left with a challenge. So what's one challenge that you could give to all the listeners and watchers that will improve their work and help them love what they do?
I think a really important thing is you need to look at yourself. And I think you have to make some rules for what drives you. And I'll give you the things that drive me. And I had to, when I've had some struggles is when I actually did this, to say, what are the things that are important to me? And I'll tell you mine. And then and I'll be a challenge to ask each challenger to do that for themselves. So I have 7 rules that I live by. The first one is to focus on GSD, getting stuff done. And then my second one is doing the right stuff. Questioning to make sure it's, when we talked earlier, it's focusing on the things that are really important.
Right.
And, focus on the things that are right, not always the most important to, one single aspect of the work.
Sure.
Always ask that question. Is this important and why? Prioritize my own work. I make sure that I arrange and prioritize my stuff so that I can feel comfortable. Communicate, and then over-communicate. You may think you say things enough times, but I think you can say things 7 different ways, 7 different times, and still not come out for people to understand.
Yeah.
And then the 2 most important are for me to try new things and have fun. If you're not having those 2 last things, you should really think about, are you in a job that's right for you? So that's
absolutely. So those you developed. How long did that take you to develop that 7 rules for yourself?
I did it. I looked over a couple other people's of what they had for themselves, and I made them my own over time, and I altered them. It was about 2 weeks of time for me to really do some soul searching, and I did it at a time where I really needed to do it, and then I challenged my staff to do it. My staff have done this for themselves, and I think that that makes us a really cohesive group. And, they like to share this stuff. And I think a big thing, a factor to make that happen is, I had our staff I asked if they'd like to do some development with their Myers-Briggs and their Strength Finder, and they all agreed. So we published that stuff. Who are you?
Very good.
How do you
Sure.
like to work? What are some of the gotchas that might be out there for you that you have to look at as a team and as an individual? So it's all important.
Now, one other kind of follow-up question to that. When you are with your team and they have their rules, and then when your team is with you and you have your rules, how does that help you with your relationship there? What does that, how does that help you help them, and vice versa as well?
Well, I think that once you get stuck on something, people revert back to those. I showed you earlier, I have those published in my office for people to see.
Right.
And I think that when you're stuck, you go to that. What am I doing for myself? Because, I think one aspect of all of our work, you're not going to change other people. You can really look at what you have to bring to the table and what you bring to make everything better. And that's all you can do. And I think that's what people go back to. And that's what, we encourage each other to do in our groups. So
very good. Thank you. Perfect. I'm going to do that challenge. I love that challenge. And I'm going to report back to you just to show you that I've done it, and then share it. I'm going to post it. I work from home, so I'm just going to post it up here so my family can see it as well. And that's a great idea.
awesome.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. You have so many gems in there that I hope so many people listen to and act on, and hopefully change to make their place much more engaging. And really, it comes down to loving your work. If you can love your work, then, and you're doing it for the right reasons, your why, then you're going to be engaged and you'll be so much more productive. So I think you gave a lot of great tips for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this story. So
thanks.
Fantastic.
Why spend 10 hours a day doing work you only tolerate? The more engaged your team is, the more productive they will be. These are the secrets to helping them love their work. Learn how to love your work and create an engaged workplace. Visit vinJones.com.